My husband ditched me and our unborn baby because his daughter lied about me hitting her. And now that she confessed, he's begging me to come back. Everything began the moment we moved to a new state, a decision I supported wholeheartedly. My husband, Ryan, had been offered an incredible job opportunity, and I was determined to be there for him. After all, we'd been through a lot together. We were both 26, fresh out of a few years of blissful marriage, and I was 8 months pregnant with our son, ready to start a new chapter in our lives. The excitement was real, but soon, a shadow began creeping in. We settled into a quiet suburban neighborhood, just far enough from family and friends to make me feel isolated. It wasn't intentional, but I quickly found myself depending on Ryan more than I ever had before. His work kept him busy, which left me alone more often than not. And as if the distance from everything I knew wasn't enough, there was Emma, his 9-year-old daughter. Emma, the product of his teenage relationship with his baby mama, whose presence in our home had always been a bit tense but manageable, now felt like a constant reminder of things I couldn't control. Ryan and I had a complicated history with Emma. I had known him in high school, and we had become close when he found himself in a challenging situation as a young father. We often helped each other out with Emma back then, and as our relationship blossomed, so did our bond with her. Or so I thought. Our home was a patchwork of memories, and I never expected it to unravel the way it did. Life felt stable for the first few months after the move. I settled into a routine, baking cookies with Emma, helping her with school projects, watching movies on lazy Sunday afternoons. Ryan had always been a devoted father, and I tried to follow his example. But it wasn't long before things started to feel off. One evening we were on the couch like we always were when the day was winding down. Ryan received a call from his ex. Her voice was loud even through the walls, and he stepped into the other room to take it. I didn't think much of it at first. It was normal for her to call, especially when it came to matters concerning Emma. But when he returned, something had changed in his demeanor. He was distant, his expression tight, his eyes cold. It wasn't long before he dropped a bombshell that left me speechless. Emma had accused me of hitting her. I couldn't comprehend it. I tried to explain repeatedly that it wasn't true, that I'd never laid a hand on her. But Ryan wouldn't listen. His loyalty, like a reflex, immediately turned toward his daughter, and I understood that. She was his flesh and blood, his child. But the accusation was so out of left field, so completely against everything we had built, that I couldn't understand how he could believe it without even asking me. It was a gut punch. I was already carrying his child, and now I felt like I was being thrown into an abyss with no one to catch me. Ryan's decision was swift. He grabbed his keys, muttered something about needing space, and left without another word. The door slammed behind him, and the silence in the house was suffocating. I called him over and over, but he didn't answer. Then he blocked me. I couldn't understand what was happening, how everything could unravel so fast. Days turned into weeks. I was left in that house, alone with my thoughts, my pregnancy, and the echo of his betrayal. Every moment was a reminder that he was gone, that I had been abandoned. The house, once a sanctuary, became a prison. I was isolated in a way I hadn't anticipated, not just from family and friends, but from my own husband. A month passed, and then I went into labor. I never wanted him to miss the birth of our son. I couldn't imagine bringing a child into the world without the man I thought I'd spend my life with beside me. So, I did the unthinkable. I called him from a stranger's phone. The sound of his voice on the other end was bitterly familiar, but when I told him it was me, he hung up immediately. The finality of it struck me harder than anything else. I gave birth to our son alone, surrounded by strangers in the hospital, but I didn't let it break me. He was here, he was healthy, and that was all that mattered. When I came home from the hospital, Ryan was there. His face was drawn, exhausted, like he had been living in a haze. But I barely had time to process his presence before I learned the truth. Apparently, when I had been in the hospital, the staff informed him that the room had been paid for by my father. This was when the pieces fell into place for him. He realized the truth, that I had been the one supporting us, not just financially but emotionally. That was when Emma confessed. She admitted it, and my world shifted again. She had lied, all to try to bring her parents back together, even though they were never together in the first place. Emma had created a story, a dangerous lie, and it had torn my world apart. The truth came crashing down on Ryan, but I couldn't even find the strength to feel anything but anger. He begged for forgiveness. He pleaded with me to let him back in, to let him see our son. But I couldn't. How could I? How could I let someone who had abandoned me, who had so easily believed such an awful lie, come back into my life? My trust had been shattered, and I knew in my heart that things would never be the same. I told him to leave. I told him I never wanted to see his face again. The days that followed were a blur. I moved back home to my family where I felt safe again, surrounded by people who loved me unconditionally. But Ryan didn't give up. He kept calling, sending messages, pleading for another chance. He never signed the divorce papers I sent him. He still wanted me back. But I was done. I had seen where his priorities lay. It was clear that, in that moment, Emma had come first. He had chosen to believe a lie rather than the woman carrying his child. I couldn't look past that. I couldn't expose my son to a father who would so easily abandon him for a child who had made up a story to manipulate him. Now I was moving on. I was focusing on my son, on rebuilding my life, and on learning how to trust again. But there would be no place for Ryan in it. I was done playing second fiddle to a lie. And I knew deep down that I would never return the favor. He had left me in the dark, and now he would feel the cold silence of my absence.